What's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the I Got a Story to Tell podcast. I am your host, Christopher Scott, the co-founder of Billion or Bust. Episode 2 got Richie Pope. My man is a Virginia native. He is from Newport News, Virginia, to be exact. I was happy he took some time out. He's currently doing a residency here in Columbus, Ohio at the Columbus Museum of Art. I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Be sure to like, comment, and share. And thank you, everybody who has been listening to episode 1 with Don Dixon and have been spreading the word. Really appreciate it. We're just trying to tell these stories and show you guys, other people, that there are other representations and amazing minorities doing great things out here. But I'm going to stop talking, and we're about to go ahead and jump into episode 2 with Richie Pope. Make sure we go ahead and say something for the people.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes.
Cool.
Feel free to come closer to the mic if you want to. It's just kind of far. But yeah, you
Is
remember Harrington Coliseum?
Yes.
Oh, no. The Coliseum Mall. You remember the Coliseum Mall?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Before it was the outdoor mall.
Yeah, and then I remember I left Hampton in like 2007. I graduated in 2007. And then I came back like 4 years later, and I was like, what the hell is this?
That's the same thing I did.
I was like, where are we at? I was like, what is all this? Because I used to work at the Alltel across the street. I was thankful the Farm Fresh was still there. Like, I remember when AMC Theater wasn't even there. Remember there was that big hoorah about putting up the AMC Theater? Because
I think so.
They said it was in the direct path of like the F-16 flight line.
Oh,
for
that
Langley.
always goes over?
Yeah, they were like, well, if y'all still want to build it, if we crash, and like a lot of people didn't want to go. Yeah, it's crazy how much that entire area has completely changed.
Because there was like that weird interstate that, like the freeway, like the interstate, it would get off to that freeway and then it had that curve, and you go down that curve to like Hampton Coliseum.
Yeah,
but I think they like removed that or
I can't drive down there.
It's so weird.
I don't know. I was like, look, somebody else is gonna have to drive.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like a town square. It was like my sisters and mom took me. It was the same thing. They were like, "You want to go to the Hampton Coliseum?" I was like, "Oh, is the mall still there?" They're like, "Oh no, they changed it." And I was thinking like, "Oh, they maybe like added something." Or like, I went there. It was just like a neighborhood, like a capitalist neighborhood. It was so weird.
It looks like Short Pump in you ever been to like? It looks exactly like the Short Pump and what's the other one? Stony Point and Short Pump. They look like the outdoor malls.
I haven't been to Stony, but I've been to Short Pump, and it's like the little outdoor.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I was like, I mean, I guess I'm not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with change, but I didn't know that that's what was gonna happen. They still got the ghetto Walmart though, right there.
Okay.
As long as they don't, you can't. Everybody knows about the ghetto Walmart.
The one.
So I guess what I normally do is I just have a conversation. I just be talking to people, and it's a little bit different with you because we kind of come from the same, we come from the same area.
It's wild.
Just across the water in a sense, but like it's not even across the water. It's like up the street.
Yeah.
You can say Hot Dog King. In Tommy's, and you're just like, oh yeah. I live. My parents' house was right off of Taz Lane.
Okay.
So I lived. So there's Farmington. We lived in the neighborhood beside Farmington. It was Ridgecrest. So Farmington was like the rich neighborhood.
Okay.
So we had to walk to Farmington to catch the bus to go to Bethel. So we was like the middle class poor kids that we had to drive through. Then we had to walk through.
Isn't that a 757 thing? Like to be a middle class poor kid? Yeah. Like it's like that weird.
It is
duality. Yeah. It's weird.
People don't understand. It's crazy.
Because the neighborhoods, they don't really have clear distinctions. Like even I remember as a kid, like I wouldn't know where I was in Newport News versus Hampton sometimes. Like I'd just be walking in Newport News, and you're in Hampton.
Yeah, you're in Hampton. It's true.
And it's just like little subtle, differences. Yeah.
And you didn't even know. I didn't really know at times. It wasn't until I guess music honestly really started to become prominent that we realized how bad the area was as kids.
Yeah.
Like we didn't realize like, oh wait a minute, did Jay-Z just say, what did you say, Newport News and moving snow? VA, what are we talking about?
I was like, what's going on here?
Like wait, this is where we live at, and it was like a big. I always tell people that Virginia is probably the most influential area for the past, I want to say at least 20 years. If you have to think like culturally and musically.
Oh yeah, musically we. Dominated, yeah.
And then, but then from music, we went from music to like fashion, like Pharrell. Like we even The fourth row, we have Missy Elliott, we have Timberland, we have Teddy Riley.
Teddy Riley.
Like people don't really give the full credit, and then it's the offspring of like all of that has come from that. Like so many people pay homage, like Tyler the Creator.
Yeah,
Tyler is directly influenced.
Lineage to Virginia, Virginia sounds and styles and all that. Yeah.
And then we have sports, like we got the Vic brothers.
Yeah, I always wondered like how much, because I know there's a lot of people who didn't grow up around the water. You know, so much 757 is like yo, I'm going to the beach today. I'm going to this beach. It's like the dirtier beach.
Buck Road.
I'm gonna go to Buck Road, but they got all the seaweed and glass, or I'm gonna go to Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
Or just go like even downtown Newport News, like where I'm from. You could just go to like the houses all the way downtown, and it's weird because it's like at a certain point, it's like where the interstate crosses over. It's like when you cross underneath that, you're in the hood. It's like immediate hood. It's like now you're hood.
Yeah.
And it's just like apartments for miles, like like patchy grass yards for miles, but then all the way to the water, it's just like nice houses again.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, this is like loop back around to like nice area, like nice, quote unquote. And we would go down there as a kid. My mom would just drive down there. There'd be all these big ass houses, and I didn't know where the water was leading to, but I guess we were looking at the Chesapeake Bay, I guess. But as a kid, like just seeing the water and seeing that go forever, I was like, okay, like I live here, but like I can go anywhere really.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where that water goes, but maybe England's over there. Maybe and then sometimes I ask people who are like not around bodies of water, and I think for them, their version of that is like the mountains or like the fields, the grass, like just a body of something like stretching out forever. But I always think about like if the geography in our area affected like the style and music and like because so much of like Missy Elliott and them was like Afrofuturism kind of and like weird sounds. Like I'm wondering how much of them was just like their imaginations wandering. Yeah. Yeah.
I think even like I think Pharrell even mentioned that in an interview one time, even just for them to be named like the Neptunes as a production company.
Yeah.
And it's even ironic, like, as you mentioned, one of my friends, I told her, my friend Jordan, I went recently to South Carolina, and it was just nice to be by the beach again. And I didn't realize how much I wanted to be by the beach until I was there. And then she said she had just went back home to Hampton and she went by the beach and she didn't need it. She didn't realize like, oh man, like I miss the beach so much. But when we were there, it's just like, man, it's all dirty water. I'm not saying we didn't necessarily like appreciate it.
Yeah.
But like, I guess we didn't really know what we have. But then like going to Colorado in the mountains, it's just like,
it's pretty wild.
Yeah. So I can, and this is the only reference I'm going to make about him right now. I could probably understand why Kanye would go to, Wyoming, and because it's like a completely different element of what he grew up in.
Yeah. It takes you out of your own mind in a way.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, now I'm in this land that's so much bigger than me.
Yeah. But maybe it like builds upon that. So, I mean, like even you saying it, like, so where you live at right now, do you feel inspired from where you're at right now, environment-wise?
I do, but it took a little bit of time because like I don't know, I couldn't tell if it's because I'm a little older. Like first when I was younger, if I just moved to a new area, I'm like, oh, what's this new city? And I'm like taking it in, and I think all the preconceived notions of what Texas is. So I was like, oh, I'm moving to Texas. Like, ain't no black people down here. Yeah, like there's plenty of black people down here, and they're all swaggier than me. Like, they all got their own like style and ideas and like accents that are just like foreign in a way of like, oh, no one home talks like that, but familiar like, oh, this is like my country
cousin. Yes, everybody got those country cousins, especially in Virginia, we got them,
definitely, So at first, I was just kind of like internally like inside the house. I wasn't really going anywhere, but then I got inspired by when we would drive. There's just big areas of flat land because so much of that area of the country is flat. So if you drive on the interstate, you just look to your left and it's just like miles of like untouched land that's going to be probably developed soon because Texas is just like changing real rapidly. But it's like so much of that is like old rancher land that I think the city and like realtors are just like buying out from people. So all those ranchers are going to be rich like real soon.
I'm sure of it.
So there's that, but then there's also a neighborhood like maybe like a mile from my house called Deep Elm, which originally was called Deep Elm because it's on Elm Street. But it was a jazz spot in like I think like mid 20th century, and because like the dialect, all the black musicians called it Elm. So now it's just called Deep Elm. And so that's like the weird kind of like artsy sort of like music scene, like has a little bit of edge to it. There's street art, And, like that's kind of sort of being like gentrified too a little bit, but it's probably the most like interesting part that reminds me of parts of Richmond, and it also reminds me of part of like 757, just being back home and like just stuff with like a little bit of edge to it, like stuff that's just a little bit of like grittiness to it, versus the kind of like marketed idea of like come to Dallas and like buy a nice house or so yeah that and people are really nice, like nicer than I expected. Like I'm always just waiting, like I live in Texas, like someone's gonna pop off, someone's gonna like say something to me, and like so far I'm just like still waiting. Granted, it might happen, but yeah, it's nicer than I thought. It's like been inspiring me in a human way, like person to person contact. So yeah,
you said a lot right there. Like, even the fact that we have to be on guard, the idea of just like, oh, I'm just waiting for someone to, just because of the fact that in the back of their mind we know that still exists. And it's very interesting. I didn't realize how much of an area we grew up in where we learned about, I guess you can say, colonizers if you want to. Like, I didn't get it, like Yorktown, Colonial Williamsburg, and then Jamestown, and then even, growing up in Richmond, going to, VCU, there's Monument Ave.
Yep.
I feel even still like knowing those things, I think it's just like, yeah, we've always known it's been like this. Like the world is just now realizing that these things exist. It's just like, yeah, we've been dealing with
it's
that.
Like catching up on 400 years of plans.
Yeah, like, hey, we've been knowing this is going on. I think just the internet makes it so that it's more accessible to people. But I think that's a good thing, because then it's shining light and making awareness. But also at the same time, it could be bad because of the amount of negativity if you don't know how to balance those things out, and seeing those negative images over and over again. What do you think about how, with everything that's going on and with visibility, because you kind of were asked a little bit of the questions with on the racial cartoon. That's what it was. I don't care. In regards to Serena, as a black man in the creative space and as an artist, like how do you feel about that?
Yeah. Well, Richmond was like definitely a like defining moment living there, and not really knowing about the history, because I just didn't know. Like I just didn't know. And like college, I really didn't learn too much. Like I was still kind of like, like you know enough, like in like the average sense, like just being a black person, but you might not know the vocabulary and like some of the history. But every black person knows. It's like an uncertain, like an untold, like you know what's going on. Yeah. So once I learned about Richmond, I was like, damn, it's kind of fucked up. And like if for people who maybe are new to the city, especially people in college, they would not know that Richmond's a majority black city. And I didn't know until I looked it up, like when I was in school. I was like, so where are the black people at? Like, I just didn't.
Out. I say they because like it's family. That's redlining is a mug. 64. You know that big church, 6 Mile Zion Baptist Church.
Yep.
That's like my family's church. My family has been in that church since the beginning.
Yeah.
And they cut it off literally to do the resources, which is literally what's going on. They did the same thing here in Columbus.
Yeah.
So you see with Long Street, it's the same exact thing.
Okay. Word.
Yeah, you were talking about.
Yeah. So like there was a bridge I just never crossed because like. I think there's something like mentally as a human where you're like, oh, there's a bridge. That's another neighborhood. I don't want to like go into their neighborhood. But then like there was another bridge, not a bridge, but like a definitely a street that led to like another area in Richmond. And people were like, oh, you got to go down there. You got to go down there. And this place was, I think, Oregon Hill. And that's where I lived for like a year. And it was like majority, I think, like white neighborhood, but it was almost more like lower middle class, like small houses, like definitely like some drugs and stuff in the area. Definitely some weird flags, maybe some Confederate flags. I don't know. But like generally like a community, like neighborhood. Like my landlord at the time was like real kind of hands off. So our front door didn't lock. So I would just like make sure I had a lock on my door, kept all my stuff in my room. Yeah. And so the neighborhood was okay. Like I didn't really like love it. So then I was like, so what's that neighborhood like I just keep avoiding? What's that? Because that neighborhood looks nicer. Like who lives over there? And that's like the black neighborhood right beside it. That's like it's a Hollywood cemetery, and then there's this black neighborhood. Houses are nicer. There's like solar panel stuff. Yeah. There's apartments. I'm like, so how come people know about Oregon Hill? That's definitely like, if this was black people, they say this is probably like the hood, this is the ghetto. Yeah. But the black people live in like the nicer houses with like nicer cars. So it's weird. So much of it's about like perception, and I feel like that's so much of Richmond, and even the idea of like Richmond versus like what RVA is. You know, like I say RVA just because I like how it sounds, but there's definitely a market like come to RVA, which is not Richmond. You know,
They're
it's so weird.
gentrifying it so much.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember my great grandmother saying this had to be like 94, 95, because you know, family lived in Churchill, you know, Jackson Ward area, like, you know, all of that, and she said that VCU is just gonna take over Richmond and they're gonna buy all of it up, and this is like it had to be at least like 24 years ago. Yeah, she knew.
She knew.
And literally, like, they're buying everything, but it's not necessarily I say that it's a bad thing, but don't swallow up the history of the city.
Yeah.
Both, you know, good and bad and indifferent. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big problem with the aspect of gentrification, because you're also erasing people's history.
Yeah.
But because we're not privy to the knowledge and the resources to hold on to our history, other people can.
Yeah.
So they can come in and take it. They know about the tax abatements and this historical this and historical that.
Yeah.
And we're just not privy to it.
Yeah. Even the idea of the fact that most interstates are like they had to drive them through some neighborhood or build them through some neighborhood, so they built them through like black neighborhoods. So like wherever there's bridges and interstates, it's not a surprise to find like black communities like separated. So like Jackson Ward is kind of like is that big interstate that leads over, you know, and then like that one neighborhood, I forget the name, but the one near Oregon Hill, that one has a bridge with an interstate underneath. There's no interstate like where I lived. It was like on Floyd Street or Floyd Avenue, which is kind of near like VCU.
Okay, gotcha.
So I was like I was like a block away from campus. Yeah. And that whole street going all the way up to like Broad Street, leading up to like the museum district. It was like, you know, majority like white neighborhood. People were like leaving their stuff outside, and I was like, man, this is wild.
Getting close to Carey Street too.
I was like, there's kids' toys. Where's the kids?
Yeah.
I was like, the people's shoes? They leave their shoes on the porch? Like, someone's gonna steal your shoes. Like, you just got them out there. But yeah, like that area didn't have anything like driven through it. So it's just stuff I just started noticing once I read it. I was like, oh, okay. So now I'm given the vocabulary and like the context for why I noticed this is off. Yeah. You know, a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, and I don't think people really are understanding like how much those decisions affected us even to this day. And I guess stopping and taking a look back at what's going on and why this made it this way, I can see like how much everything that's going on right now is going to affect like your kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And kind of getting back to more so of you know the thing that you do every day that you love in the art aspect. When Trump got elected, you know, everybody, you know, felt, you know, the type of way, whether people were happy about it or sad about it. I thought it was a great time for creatives, because when people feel like their voice is oppressed, the only way that we can actually communicate or talk about what's going on is through art. You know, and with the changes, you know, in the world and things been going on, do you feel like, you know, it's naturally becoming a way of you expressing it, or are you just speaking to the current climate, or
for me it's just a reaction, because I don't you know, I feel like people just don't say it enough. Like, you feel powerless, you know, in a way that like people who know that's how the system works, and they're kind of like telling you, like almost like they're telling you, this is how the system works. I win, you don't. Like, what are you gonna do? Yeah. And it's just like, feels taunting. And you know, and one reaction is to just you know, lose yourself in it and just constantly like update yourself and almost like punish yourself. You know, just constantly taking bad news. Like, I've just had people who are just like, I can feel that that's what they're doing every day, and like I can't exist in that area, and I feel bad, but I don't know how to like say like you can like disconnect but also stay informed. Like, you don't have to like surround yourself with it like all the time. But then also I think it's like I used to think more of myself as an artist, especially in art school, where it's like, you know, some like even students here ask me like, you gotta have a voice, and like, what's your voice, or what's your style, like how'd you get your style? So you're thinking so much about yourself, and then, you know, especially after like the election, I was like, well, I already wasn't thinking about myself. I'm already thinking of like, you know, subconsciously, what does it mean to be a black artist? Like who do I inspire? You know, because I don't leave my house, so I don't know. I don't know my actual like influence on people. But then after that, I was like, well, now you know, it's a responsibility I just have to hold to myself to try to make people feel not alone. You know, so like earlier comics, they were kind of just experiments with format, but then stuff like that box we sit on was very like, I want people who feel like, like fuck all this. You can read this book, and I'm not necessarily giving you like political answers, but I'm letting you know like we survive through community, and like we build through community. So that's just been like pretty much my mood from like 2016 on, and I did hear people say like right after. I heard people say, "Oh, music's about to get really good," or like art's gonna be like so good, and art's gonna get so good. It's gonna be so punk is coming back, and like some of punk is coming back, but like a lot of like black and brown kids and queer kids are like the new punks.
Yeah, it really is. We got Jaden, like that's leading it. Like you got, but like Kid Cudi did so much for us, man. Like I come from Kid Cudi, even Mac Miller. I think that's another reason why Mac Miller hit as hard as it did, because of he was actually, they weren't afraid to express, hey, look, I feel like this, I feel like shit,
and it's not weakness, it's just I feel this way.
And if and that's like a big thing. And I think when I first read your comic, I went back to the time I saw the N-word in the newspaper by Mr. Aaron Magruder and Boondocks. Like, growing up, being raised by like my grandparents and great grandparents, they got the newspaper every day. Yeah. So like I started out, learning how to read. In Richmond, they had something called the mini pages in the Richmond Times Dispatch. So then I would get every Sunday, my grandma would get the mini pages out of the Richmond Times Dispatch, and they had the big family comics. So I had to read the comics, and then I became accustomed to it. So then the first time I remember reading in a comic book, I was like, wait a minute. This is a black comic strip in a newspaper, and he has an afro. And then I had started reading it, and then I remember when I saw, I was like, oh, it's the N-word in a comic book. And that was a very defining moment, even to me as a child, because I would read like Garfield and Calvin and Hobbes. Mind you, like I can't draw for shit. I could do regular graphic design, but I always, again, love art and comics and stuff like that. And so I felt like when I saw that, I was like, man, that's what he's doing for this generation. I don't know if he knows that or not. Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up, because that's the same thing happened to me, where the first time I seen it was in the comic. I hadn't heard about Boondocks. I didn't know who he was. Didn't know he went to like a Maryland college.
I think so. I want to say it was University of Maryland.
Yeah. And I saw it, and I was like, oh, hey, it's Black Kid with an Afro. I was like, oh, he's talking to a kid. Oh, he has cornrows. I was like, what is this comic? So I read it, and now I think back, I'm like, there was so many comics where there were like no white people in the comic, and I don't know how many other comics have just one black character they bring out every now and then. Yeah. Even Franklin from Peanuts, who respect, but like it's just Franklin. Yeah. It's not like Franklin's world, like Franklin's perspective. Yeah. A lot of stuff. So the first time I saw like the N-word in there, I was like, oh wow. I was like, oh, they're just young boys talking to each other. Like this is cool. Okay, yeah. So like I would just read that every Sunday. Like my mom would bring in like the Sunday paper. At a certain point, she worked at the Daily Press in Newport News. Ooh. So I think she worked in like the printing or something. So she was bringing home newspapers. I always had the comics. Same thing. Read Calvin and Hobbes, Garfield, like Doonesbury. I didn't understand the politics. I was like 8.
Yeah, but I like the way that it looked.
But it looked good.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't know what they're talking about. Even like the small family circle ones, like
the little like one shots.
Yeah, it's just like I see what they did there.
I get it. Yeah. So yeah, I remember I just read it every day, every Sunday whenever it came out, and that was the first time I also knew that like people were going to push back on this, and people just don't want black people to talk about being black. Because like there was a letter to the editor.
I remember that. Yeah, and they had to edit it, rerun it, and then they wanted them to blurb out because he didn't put. Yeah, I was like, this. Yeah, no, there wasn't like star. No, it was just like there blatantly. Yeah, like, hey, and and it was an uproar, and I was like, he did this. Yeah, and then like right after that, we got Chappelle. Yeah. Well, it's funny because that letter to the editor was not only is kind of funny, like. How could you have this sort of racist material in this comic, in this paper? Like, I'm going to stop reading, And I think that was my first taste of like, dang it, I think I kind of do like making people upset, but in like the righteous way of like, I'm going to be myself and you're not going to like stop me from doing it. Yeah. So funny. That was like, I think middle school, high school for me, reading that paper or reading that comic. And then when I got into college,
like Chappelle show dropped, and I was like, oh, you can be this type of black too, on TV and make money.
And he was saying, I was like, he's really saying like, and then it's so crazy. There's so much stuff that like Chappelle talked about and said was gonna happen, and then like watching it, but it was representation was like important in a completely different way. And you, man, it's how does it? I know that you have like grown adults, because I don't really consider like as old right now. They're probably like, yo, you inspire me. Like, how does that like how does that make you? How does it make you feel?
When other adults say it, it feels just as good, honestly, when like younger people say it. Like when students say it, it's good, and when adults say it, it's good. But I know with adults, it's almost like a reawakening, because you can tell sometimes, like, you know, adulthood can kind of like separate you from like being yourself and kind of like try to normalize you, like, you know, and kind of try to take all your rough edges and like, all right, you're an adult now, like get real, and just be in the machine, like don't do this, don't do that, and so it feels good that people, you know, like my age, older, you know, get something from it, and even people who it's like I think I brought this up on that one panel where I was talking about Friday, the movie Friday.
Oh yeah, you gotta talk. Yeah. I know you would, cause like, man, I was like Friday, like we.
Yeah. And it was like an article about I know there was an actress, the actress who played Craig's mom, who was also on like Wayans Brothers. I forget her name.
Yes, I can't think of her name right now.
Yeah.
Look it up while you're talking about.
And she was talking about how, like, you know, people always stop her like, oh, I love Friday, thank you, I love Friday. And she said one time, this like one lady stopped her, said, oh my God, I love Friday. And she was like, oh, does your son watch it? Your son a fan? She's like, oh no, I'm a fan. She was like, I didn't know middle-aged white ladies watch Friday. Like, and I was thinking about the concept of Friday, like, you know, the whole like character layout, the plot, and all that stuff. And like those specific stories are universal because they're specific. Like, you know, someone tell you something personal, you're not gonna not believe them. You're gonna believe them. You're gonna go, oh, that's an interesting story. I did not know that. So, you know, I feel like adults have the same thing where they see something and they go, oh, that's so specific. It reminds me of something when I was a kid, or reminds me of this. So yeah, that it feels good to have like adults kind of like react to the stuff I'm making.
Did you like? So do you feel? It seems just like you kind of stumbled into it, even in doing the Revenge of the Black Nerds piece. You know, it just seemed like you kind of just stumbled into the point where I feel like, is it going to be like more like if you started to think like, you know what, maybe I do like full cartoon, like, you know, and to grow into that space. Did you think that it was going to, you know, get to this?
Not really. Well, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be an animator, and I got to school, but I also wanted to be like a gallery artist. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Like every artist is a gallery artist. Like you get a studio and you have giant paintings and people come and rich people buy your shit. And you get like you're abrasive, so you're like race in your face. You know, like there's no like subtlety. You know, and then over time, over school and whatnot, I kind of just jumped back into cartooning because it was the one thing where I could control all those worlds in one. So I could make a zine that's an art gallery. Like each panel could just be a drawing. That's it. You know, I can make you know, a comic that could work as an animation. I can make a comic that's just more of like, you know, embracing print and like what panel layouts next to each other do, like what the compositional stuff does. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
For sure. I mean, it's important. Like, you know, I don't. It's always like, it's like that one saying, you know, to whom much is given, much is tested. It's like, you know, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but what if I didn't ask for this? I didn't ask for this power. Like I didn't ask for this. You know what I'm saying? So how are you expect me to be responsible? Like even as a thing of representation, you know, to a certain extent, at times I struggle with this because, you know, even being a black transgender man, it's like everybody wants me to be their little token. You know, it's
right.
Like, hey, you check 2 boxes, you know, and I'm like, but I'm not sure your affirmative action piece. You know, I'm not.
Right.
I'm just Christopher. You know what I'm saying? My story is a lot deeper than what you just see on the outside. That's the only place where you're stuck at. But then it wasn't until I had spoken like Making Midwest Festival, and it was a white gay guy that came up to me. He was just like, hey, I just want to let you know, I've never seen a black trans guy talk in the creative space and talk about being a creative entrepreneur. And I'm like, man, And I didn't think about it, and I was just like, well, maybe there is going to be some other people out there like me. You know,
Yeah.
and he said, even as, you know, him not being, you know, necessarily a black gay guy, but, you know, him being white and gay and just being, you know, in that space, he's just like, you know, I appreciated your talk and you just being honest and talking about your struggles and how you feel, because we're all different, you know, but we still connect to a certain point in some way. You know, I just think everybody gets kind of caught up on the outside. However, that still is a part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's that same, I think the fact that we came from nothing and we can make so much from nothing, that is our superpower.
Yeah.
If anything were to make it special.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
And we're able to exceed and dominate very well in just about everything.
Yeah. Just give us some space. Like clear off a table.
Yeah.
You know.
But we're not doing it for the sense of domination.
Right, right.
I honestly feel, as you know, African Americans, that's minorities, period, not just African Americans. Like, we are innovating. We're trying to make the world a better place because we realize certain systems and things in place are not good. Like, you know, think about the damn use for a peanut. You know, what George Washington Carver was like, I'm just about to change the use of peanuts for all black people all over the world. No, he was like, hey, guys, everybody.
Yo, check this out.
Look what I can do. Ain't this popping? You know, and I think, and I even see, you know, I've seen you interact with you have so many different types of people, you know, come up to you, and just because you are who you are and you're living well.
Yeah.
You're happy. And I think so when was that cross section of where it's just like, was there ever a time where it's just like, shit, all right, I need to sell some stuff, or I need to figure out what I'm going to do, or where was it, you know, or where did you get to that point of your 10,000 hours, or where you were really starting to get paid off of your craft, and then how were you able to be patient in that time?
Yeah. It was probably like 2012 because I was working at an art store. This has already been like three years out of school. And I spent an extra year in school because I messed up my portfolio thing the first year, which is like,
oh, I know about that VC.
like
arts.
AFO.
Oh, yeah.
I messed it up. And then so I missed the deadline. And so they were like, we have to just do another year of it. And I was like freaking out and I was crying. I was like, oh man, I messed up art school.
Yeah.
So anyway, extra year. So there's a little tidbit. People that think, you know, if you spend an extra year, then you're, you know, you've messed up. But 2012, I was working at an art store, maybe about a year. Then they went out of business. And, you know, it was like okay wage, like, you know, local job. And I was like, you know, I really didn't like 9 to 5s, and not on some like, oh, like I don't like working with people. Something about it, I just didn't like getting up to do the same, like the exact same thing.
Every day.
The exact same thing.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I met like good friends at the art store, and some of them are still my friends today. So I was like, I just got to make it happen. I got to start trying. So near the end, because before I knew they were going out of business, I started a Tumblr and had my first post, and I was like, it was really corny. You know, I look back on it, it's like, hi, my name is Richie. I'm an artist. Check out my work. And it was like a little sketchbook page, and you know, I kind of became my own art director. So I did that for a while, and then those pieces were just like, well, let me just build my portfolio up. Let me just do that, and you know, because if I wait on jobs, I'll be waiting forever. So let me just make my own jobs, quote unquote, and you know, do all that stuff. So did it. Then I got maybe my first job like a year later, I think. I honestly, that in between that first job and me losing my job, I can't remember what I was doing. Like, it's just like a blur of like, I think I just had no money. Like, I had like no money. And so the first job hit, and I was like a nice paying job. And it was like a dream client that I was like, I'll get them later. And they found me just through some ask of like, hey, I'm trying to find more like black illustrators for sci-fi fantasy. And an artist friend of mine was like, oh, you should check out these people. And Richie Pope, he's really good. And like that single tweet like set off my first job. And then our art director worked with me on book covers for maybe like, we had to do like 12, 14 more projects over the past couple of years. You know, and the work begets the work. So the work becomes the promotion. So people see it, they go, who's that? Oh, that's Richie Pope. And they hire them. And maybe they work with 4 other art directors. And they're like, oh, who are you working with? Oh, that's Richie Pope. And then they you go up to the shows. People are like, oh, are you Richie Pope? And you just sort of notice like, oh, I just have to keep coming back. Like if I keep coming back, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been interesting. Like the path has been like a small little like snowball, kind of started picking up, and you know, I still mentally have not caught up with it. Like I don't, you know, I just sit around in my underwear and draw all day. Like I don't, it still doesn't like other people's perception of me. Like I have no idea. I don't even know what that is, you know, which is good. I feel like I don't have any type of ego. Like I just, you know, just not even thinking about it half the time.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't think I was gonna be doing podcasts.
Yeah.
I didn't. Man, like probably even like in this past like 2 years, what I thought I was gonna do just changed. Like in the past, my friend Randy told me, wow, I gotta actually update this. He's 3 months ago. He's like, write down like where you want to be, where you are now, and then like where you want to be in like 6 months or like a year or something like that. And watch in 3 months, it's gonna change. And literally, like it's changed. But I didn't. I had to like stop and assess like everything that I've done, and realize what I was good at. Like I like taking pictures. You know, I did pretty decent at video. I could play different instruments. Then I know I kept running into different individuals, like really dope people. And I was like, man, you know, someone should hear their story. I didn't realize I was doing journalism and storytelling. And even with marketing, because I love doing marketing, and realize I just like doing the marketing aspect because of telling people's story. So then when me and Elle got together and we started Billionaire Bust, we knew we wanted to tell the story of minority entrepreneurs. But then it just kind of like snowballed, and now we have podcasts, you know, and then we're working into this. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff I can't really disclose right now, but everybody will find out soon. But it's just dope. But it's how everything happens. But it's a matter of just following like that gut instinct. And I always knew I was creative, you know, and you had someone that was there to be very supportive. Like you said, your mom would bring home the newspapers. Like, did family ever worry as far as, you know, hey, you sure you good? You gonna eat off of this? Like, this ain't normal. Like, even now, my family's just like, wait, you don't go to a building. Like, are you okay? Like, is this really, are you okay? Are you eating?
Well, it's wild because, like, my mom, she's always been, it's weird. Like, she took care of us mostly. Like, it was like me and 3 siblings. I was the only boy in the house, 4 kids. Now I look back, I know times when she was, like, really stressed or worried or depressed. But I didn't get it because I was a kid. I just didn't understand the perspective of, like, the weight of being a parent. But all throughout school, all throughout as a kid, she was just like, oh, just draw. Like, just do your thing, you know? And, like, even as an adult, I don't think she cared too much. Like, she never really asked how much I was making. But I think she just wanted me to keep doing it because she knew it was, like, it will pay off eventually. You know, she always definitely instilled, like, the idea of hard work, not, like, in the sort of, like, capitalist, like the successful people are people who work the hardest, like measured, and then they work the hardest, and that's the ones who are, like, at the top. But just the idea of, like, if it's something you like, just keep going at it, and, like, you know, and just see where it goes. Like, if I just changed my mind, she still would have supported me. If I was like, no, I want to be, like, a rapper, she'd be like, okay, like, you can draw your own mixtape, you know. Like, she was still there was none of my hobbies that were, like, a little off or anything. And so, like, now recently, like, I got this kind of book offer, which I might turn down, I'm not sure, just because of time. And she doesn't know, like, that much about publishing, I don't think. But I asked, like, a question on Facebook, like, with friends, and she's like, no, don't take it. You know your worth. And she was, like, trying to give me advice, you know, just because she's seen it, and I think she knows that she's nurtured it. And so I remember there was one point, it was maybe, like, when I was living in Oregon Hill. It was around, like, 2013, I think. And we were in the car, and she just came to visit, and we were talking about my art. She was talking about how proud of me she was, and I was like, oh, do you still have, like, some of my old stuff? She's like, oh, yeah, I do. And then somehow I got to this topic where she was like, you know, some of the drawings you did, like some of the figure drawings, some of the older stuff, she's like, some of it's not very good. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, is this where she, like, turns on me and it, like, reveals the prestige where she's like, actually, you suck, don't do this. But she was like, but like, I knew you just had to keep going. And so she never, like, because some people tell the kids, like, you know, you're not good at that, and the kid just stops. Like, I have friends who literally would draw. Parents said, oh, they're not good at that, or, you know, you can't do that. And they go, oh, I guess I can. Like, parental stuff is so, like, you know, influential, so important. And the fact she told me that, I was like, wow, that's actually, like, really good, like, parental, you know, advice. Like, just encourage them, like, you know, like, she just kind of kept it going, just kept pushing. It was like a little push throughout the whole, pretty much my whole life. So, like when I won that Ignatz a couple of weeks ago, I thanked her in my speech, which was pretty dope. She wasn't there because it was like a nighttime event. But yeah, she's not an artist, but she's like probably one of my main artistic influences. If you take it that way. So, yeah.
Well, I didn't want to just ask you the traditional, like, so where are you from?
Yeah.
If you couldn't
what school
figure it
did
out,
you go
to? Richie's from Virginia. That's another thing. Remember we were talking like we didn't realize we were going to racist schools.
Yeah.
Like Jefferson Davis. I went to Jefferson Davis Middle School, and it's just we just be blind, like just sheep.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I always ask. And then everybody always gives me pushback, and they're like, "You can't ask that question. That's a hard question." Like, top 5 favorite hip hop artists, or you could do like top 5 favorite hip hop songs or songs that influence you. However you want to do it, but just give me 5.
Okay. Because of the aforementioned name earlier that we won't name again,
we can say it for all intents and purposes of this part. 'Cause we gotta give him credit.
I used to like Kanye used to be in my top. Recent, he's just like it's like I'd have to just like push him out to the side for now. So
save Kanye.
Yeah. So top 5. I get like top 5 like influential, like important rappers to me.
Yeah, to influential to you. That's what I'm gonna start posing the question that way.
That's good.
Top 5 influential.
Yeah, and in no order.
Yes, no order.
Kid Cudi, because I was the first person in my 20s who I was like, oh, a rapper can speak this like vulnerably about like depression. Like I didn't know he was depressed at the time, but now I know. Cudi, Danny Brown, because I feel like he's not giving enough credit for like he's mad influential and he's mad like punk and like no one mentions his name in like this current generation. So he's up there. Ghostface, just because I mean like
12 Reasons to Die was so beautiful.
He's like a second coming of like a Slick Rick or something. Like he could just rap a story and just keep going and. A whole album could be the story.
I told 12 Reasons to Die.
Yeah,
and then when they did the comic book
with Adrian Young.
Yes. Yeah. And then because then we're gonna start talking about like Dynamite.
Yeah. So those 3. Kendrick mainly because I hadn't really got. He has the same energy of like an Eminem in terms of like I have this flaw. I can just like I have this explosive energy inside of me, but some of like the content of Eminem does not age well.
Yes.
Whereas like Kendrick was like speaking to me, and he's like around my age. Gotcha. So with each album, I was like rising up, sort of with him. So he's still, he's still in there. Each album is good. So that's 4. I'm trying to think. I'll do Missy Elliott. Mainly because I appreciate her even more as I get older, and I'm more proud of where she came from, like where I'm from, and the fact that she was envisioning with like Hype Williams, envisioning futures of black people, being around each other and dancing and like being happy, like that was like pre like Black Boy Joy and like Black Excellence and Black, like she was doing her thing because like those are her ideas. So yeah, I want all of them to do a song or something together, and I'll just die happy.
Oh man,
that'd be wild. Just like Kid Cudi doing the hums, what I'm saying?
All you need is just the hmm.
Just
I was just telling somebody the other day, it don't matter where you're at when you hear that Kid Cudi. Cudi, where's Cudi? Yeah.
I heard him on like the new Travis Scott album, and he's on a song with like Stevie Wonder, and one of the members from Earth, Wind and Fire, and James Blake is on the end. I was like, what is this? And Kid Cudi doesn't say any words. He just on the chorus. I was like,
instrument.
All right.
I mean, the voice is if you understand music and all that.
Yeah.
And if I won't say if you understand music, the vocals are supposed to be another instrument.
It's almost his is like a melancholy instrument.
Yeah.
Where it sounds like there's a subtle like sadness to it. It's like solemn. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and it's almost like what's it, the Tibetan gong, almost like a it's almost because it has that same intrinsic effect.
Mm-hmm.
You could listen to like I can listen to Cudi like it don't matter what it is. You hear that. It's just
it pulls you in. It pulls you in. It's I'm trying to think. It's weird because they don't sound the same, but I think of some like a band like Animal Collective. Like their sound is definitely taken from like West African like indigenous music, but something about indigenous music and its influences and people who take from those, where it's something like puts you in a trance. Like it kind of pulls you in. I feel like Cudi's like tone and the words that he says, but it's more like the way that he does it like pulls you in. I love that type of music. I can just kind of like zone out.
Yeah, honestly, I think Future is like that too. Like he knows melody, and I think and he knows Future is like that.
Yeah.
Are you a playlist kind of guy? You make playlists?
I used to make a lot of playlists in college, mostly because I was like starting to make beats, so I was like collecting stuff. I would make playlists when I was like drawing, so I would have like work playlists, like focus, and that'd be like real like heavy songs, like real like like almost like rap anthems. Like rap anthems became a thing.
Yeah.
It's like that was like my whole playlist, and I was like, I was drawing. And then but now recently it's more like albums. Like I just pick albums. So I'm a little bit more like specific. And I'm too lazy to make playlists. So
well, we got everybody make a playlist.
Yeah,
At
that's
least
the thing.
Like just 10 to 15 songs. Even that, it could be some playlists have like 3 or 4 of the same song from the same album. But but
playlists are kind of mainstream now.
Oh yeah.
Like when you go into Apple Music, like playlists are at the top. Like I don't have to make them. I just click on them.
It's already curated. But you know who has the better? Spotify, man. They got this thing called Your Daily Mix, and they have like the best playlist curation.
Like the algorithm's
they got
like
the
real good?
algorithm like
It's good.
Like that's money. Like I've
Right.
never then like you listen to more songs and it's like Daily Mix 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So then I can tell from the covers like, oh, this is the trap mix. Like, oh, okay, this is the R&B joint. Oh, this is the punk. I'm oh, then you can do the shuffle. And I'm like,
what happened? Yeah.
And then they recommend more. I'm like, yo, algorithm Spotify, and they not cutting the check yet, but we do like to say. Shout out to Spotify.
Eventually.
Oh yeah, that's definitely coming.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want the people to know? Your exhibit is going to be at the Columbus Museum of Art until.
It'll be there till March. I have some cards. Actually, let me grab them real quick. Hold on.
No problem.
But yeah, it's like March 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Specific date. Yeah, through March 10th, 2019 at CMA.
Perfect. And how have you been liking Columbus, man?
I like it. It's almost like a mix of Dallas and Richmond because it feels like a little low key like Richmond, but it's spread out like Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's been cool. Like I've been walking around. I'm, the more I travel, especially in America, the more I'm like, man, cities are kind of the same.
Yeah, that's what I've learned too. Like you go right now, I'm telling you, it's like it's rich. That's literally why I love it. What else are you? So after I know you're gonna be here in Columbus for a little while longer. But then what's going on next?
So I'm doing Mice, which is a show in like Boston area, and that is literally not this weekend, but the next weekend.
Okay.
So I'll be doing that. A little break, and then I'll be doing Comics Art Brooklyn, which is like a one-day kind of comic festival. And I'll be splitting a table with Chris Kindred, who's also like incredible cartoonist. He's also like a game dev.
Okay.
So he's like sort of experimenting with visual novels, and like combining those theories with comics and gaming, all that stuff. And then after that, another break. Then I'll be doing Comics Art LA. So that'll be the first time I've been to the West Coast. Period. And that's like another small show. So
cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want people to take a look at and check out? For sure, let them know.
Yeah, just that box we sit on is online. I have like a Richie Pope Gumroad, so just look up like gumroad.com, I think / Richie Pope. You can get it. It's like a couple $, digital. Or if you catch me any of those shows, you can get the book there for a little bit more.
I have a personalized copy.
Oh, that's right.
Ha ha ha.
You do. Yeah. I was actually gonna give you one. I forgot you already had one.
Oh so. Yeah, I definitely have it. It's in my bag actually right now.
Word.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely appreciate you, taking time out to sit down with me, and you're inspiring so many people here. Like I don't know if you met Marshall Shorts, but like he's just like, oh, this guy Richie, you gotta see this art, and then just like, oh my gosh, Richie. I'm like, what? Let me see it. I was like, look at this guy's art. This is dope. So yeah, and I definitely gotta buy another one of the Black Panther ones because I bought 2 and I gave them away. So
Word.
I give away art. I'm that friend.
You're a good friend.
Yeah. Be sure to follow Richie on Instagram and Twitter at Richie Pope. You can also follow Billionaire Bus at Billionaire Bus, and make sure you hit the subscribe button whether you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or Google Play. I think we're literally on everything now at this point, and even on YouTube. And if you want to follow the kid, you can follow me at Chris Dash. I have a lot of crazy guests coming up this season. Again, definitely appreciate every listener, and I hope y'all are enjoying. All right, peace.